I'm hearing the slow dings. Welcome, everybody. We wanted to just make sure that you could type your name in the chat as we get started so that we have a record of everyone that's attending. And we appreciate you joining us. It looks like we've got over 50 of us already. And I apologize for the late start. We had a little technology slowdown today, so thank you for your patience with us hanging out in our waiting room. I'm Jennifer Grant with the Early Learning Coalition. This is our, not really even sure what number. I guess we should have not started numbering our town halls, but we started these during the start of the COVID crisis and found that it was a good way to share information with you. So I have quite a bit to share with you today. Feel free to type any questions in the chat box. We'll keep an eye on it and try and answer as many questions as we can. If we don't get to all of your questions, we'll try and reply with any of them later on in an email so that everybody gets the benefit of your insightful questions and we can answer them. Usually with over 50 people, it's hard to get to everybody, so we'll do the best that we can. I hope everybody's staying safe and healthy, and appreciate you joining us today. And we'll just go right ahead. Tanya, if you can jump us to the agenda. And again, for those of you that just joined us, please type your name in the chat box so that we have a record of your attendance. Okay, so as you can see, 13 things to talk about today. That's a lot of information. As we typically do, we will record the webinar or the town hall meeting, and we will send it back out to you via email later on. I know I tend to talk fast. I apologize. I want to be cognizant of your time. I know it's difficult for all of you to take time out to join us, so I will do my best to be concise, and then if you have any questions or concerns, we can follow up later. You'll also get all of the documents that we referenced today in a follow-up email as well, so that you have them to take a look at your leisure. We're talking about the targeted rate increase. That's our #1 issue. Hopefully, all of you saw, with the exception of a couple of providers, we had, of course, some EFS mod technology issues, but the state of Florida, the legislature voted last year during legislative session to allocate $50 million towards a targeted rate increase for school readiness providers. We've had some increases, little bits at a time over the years for VPK, but there has never been a statewide increase for school readiness providers. And the methodology was, let's go back again, Tanya, sorry. They said we want to put $50 million to improve increasing the rates. But they knew that $50 million wasn't enough to raise the rates for every provider at every age group across the state of Florida. So they charged the Office of Early Learning with coming up with a methodology. And remember, our school readiness funds come from local funders, but the majority of them come from the federal government. So the federal government tells us that the coalition and the state of Florida can't pay more than 75% of market rate. And what that means is every year when we ask you to do your profiles, we also ask private providers that have nothing to do with the Early Learning Coalition. They may not have a school readiness or a VPK contract to create a profile. And we're collecting all of their rates, what they charge the general public for services. And the state calculates an average market rate for the state of Florida. So we can't pay more than 75% of that market rate. But what the state found, and the legislature, and we've known for years, is that many providers can't afford to charge their parents any more than the coalition pays. And so the rates were low, and they continue to be low. And I know I've talked to many of you about this, and we're trying to do our best to try and increase those rates. So what the methodology that the state came up with Office of Early Learning, and they had to have the legislators approve it, was that they looked at infants through 5 years old, not in school, those age ranges. So this increase does not affect school-age children. It's only for our infants through 5-year-olds not in school. And the reason that they did that is because those are the most expensive due to ratio requirements. Those are the most expensive children for you to educate and care for. So we have new full-time and part-time rates. The good news for you is those were effective January 1 of 2021. So we'll walk through what that looks like. But with that $50 million, let's jump to the next slide. Office of Early Learning's methodology basically made the decision to increase the infants, as you see on this slide. The infants are now, we will pay 100% of the 75th percentage of the market rate statewide. So as much as we can pay by the federal government rules, okay? Because infants, of course, are your most expensive age group. For toddlers and 2-year-olds, we're going to move our rate up to 85%, and this is statewide, not just Seminole. 85% of the market rate of the 75th percentile. And then 3s, 4s, and 5-year-olds not yet in school are at 75%. So the most money of this increase is going to your youngest children. If you don't serve infants, hopefully this might encourage you over time to look at that as a reasonable, fiscally sound business opportunity. But that's why we wanted to make sure, because the infants are most expensive, and then toddlers, that we were paying you closer to the maximum rate that we could pay for that age group. Okay. I know one of the questions will probably be, does this carry into next year? Because they only allocated $50 million to spend at the end of this year, and it does. So these rates will move forward into our contracts for those of you that choose to execute a contract with us starting July 1. These rates will be our rates moving forward. Next slide. Thank you. Just reminding you, this is the law, the Federal Code of Federal Regulations that requires us to have equal access to childcare by setting a fair market rate. So every 2 years, we take your private pay rates, we give them to the Office of Early Learning through EFS Mod now. We look at all centers in the community, family childcare homes, anyone who will give us their rates, and we use that to establish that fair market rate. Thanks, Tanya. So these were our previous full-time rates, and you can see that we have rates for licensed or exempt child care centers. We have then the Gold Seal differential, because those of you that have a Gold Seal credential receive a little bit more. It's up to 20% more, and we do pay up to 20% more in our coalition. The licensed family child care homes are a different rate. So these were our rates previously. And these are our new full-time rates. So if you just look at the infant, which is children under 12 months, we were at $32.31. We're now paying $47. These are our daily rates. So $47 a day for infants. So what that means for you is if you charged an overage for your parent in January and they paid this, we're now reimbursing you for $47 instead of $32, you may be able to credit that family a little bit towards future overages because you want to give them the benefit of this increased market rate, okay? And so you can see, then we go down to the toddlers. We went from $27 to $34. I'm just looking at the center rates, but you can see across registered family child care homes and informal providers. We also have the special needs rate. The special needs rate, we have an application process to use that rate, but the state has aligned that rate with the infant rate, meaning there's a much higher level of care that you would be offering to a child with special needs. And we have an application process that we can talk about at another time. But if you have questions about that, you can feel free to reach out. But just wanted you to see kind of how the full-time rates change, and you should see that in your payment from January 1. Okay, we'll move on. This one is our part-time rates. Oh, that's the overall full-time rates. And remember, you're going to get a copy of this, so you'll see it. Okay, so these are our daily rates, yes. So these are the part-time rates, and just again, a comparison for you. Our part-time infant rates, so that's less than 6 hours a day, and that's based on the parent's eligibility. Remember, eligibility is based on how long the parent works or goes to school and has a purpose for care. So if a parent is only working or in school part-time, they may only be eligible for part-time care less than 6 hours a day. And we're going from $20.33 a day to $40 a day for infants. And you can see that comparison all the way up to PR5, which is our 5-year-olds not yet in school. We changed from $16.54 to now $22.50 for that age group. Okay, so hopefully this is a good sign. We're moving in the right direction to start paying more for the high quality services that you're offering. And we wanted to make sure that everybody knew what was moving forward with this. Now, what this means is that we have a contract with you with those previous rates. So the next step, even though it's retroactive to January 1st of 2021, we haven't signed the contract yet. So the state is allowing us to do a contract amendment for each of you. We can jump to the next slide. A contract amendment for each of you that will, oh, sorry, there's your part-time race again. We are going to have to amend all of your contracts. So some of you are on 1920 extensions because we haven't done a class assessment for you yet. Some of you are on 2021 contracts. So we will be reaching out to you. The compliance staff will be reaching out to you individually to work on your contract amendment as it's required. We didn't want everybody to go in and start changing your profile. We've put the rates in, but you can't change anything else right now until we get these amendments done. The state is allowing us to backdate the amendments, which we are never allowed to do, but in order to be able to implement this as of January 1. So this round of amendments that we'll be contacting each of the school readiness providers about will basically formalize our contract with you and amend it to these new rates. Some of you may want to change your private rates because we can't pay more than you charge a private parent. So when I mentioned that it was $40 for an infant, if your private pay rate is only $35 a day, we can't pay you $40 a day. So I know many of you are going to look at your rates and what you pay a private parent, and you may want to consider changing your rates. You absolutely have the right to do that, but not until we get those amendments done. Please do not go in EFS mod and make any changes, because that will mess up the amendment process for the rates that we've already released to you. So we will be reaching out to each of you individually so that we don't have to go back and forth. The compliance team is working on a system to just contact you individually, work you through the amendment process so that it's as efficient as possible, and we don't spend a lot of time going back and forth. Once that amendment is done, then you can, and we need to get everybody's done, so there's about 100 and something of them that we need to do. Once those amendments are completed, then we will work with you if you're interested in changing your private pay rate. You have the right to do so. We just need to get this done in order so that we're effective with it. Okay. One other piece on this slide that I just wanted to point out is we'll talk in a second about looking at your payment reports out of EFS mod. You should be able to access that report, and you should see, for the payment that we just released last week, the gross payment should show you what the increase is. Remember, we subtract parent fee from that gross payment. So if you have any questions finding that, feel free to let us know. I'm happy to help walk you through that. All right. So we talked about amendments process. So don't call us, we'll call you. And I appreciate your patience as we work through that process. We're very, very lucky that the legislature voted for this and that the state is allowing us to start at January 1, even though we did not get all of the amendments done first. It was very gracious of them to allow us to do this backdating, because that's typically never allowed. So we appreciate your patience as we get that paperwork side of things done so that we can move forward to next year's contracts and your opportunity to amend your contract this year as well if you'd like to increase your rates. Okay. The next piece we wanted to say is to talk about emergency closure documentation. I know that we've been waiting for the Office of Early Learning to come out with a training video about this, but in the meantime, many of you, thank you very much, all of you have been calling or emailing me when you have a closure due to COVID-19. If you have a positive teacher or a child, you contact the health department, but we have to address it in EFS mod. So we're going to put this information in your share file. We'll also send it in the follow-up information, but this is the guidance on how to put your temporary closures into EFS mod. So that when you go to do your attendance for the month, the closures are in there. Up until now, we've been entering the closures on your behalf, but this will allow you to not have to wait for us, and you can take care of it on your own to enter those. So that information and the guidance is in writing right now. We will definitely release any videos or training that the state does release to you. Obviously, the provider rate increases kind of took precedence because getting you money over videos seemed to be a more important thing. So that will be coming in the future, but in the meantime, written instructions are available for you so that you can start to enter the temporary closures yourself. In addition, there are some hints and tips that we'll be sending out related specifically to attendance. We are no longer paying for more than 10 absences in school readiness. And for VPK, we're following what we call the 80-20 rule, which is every month we will pay up to 20% of the scheduled days absences. And then at the end of the year with VPK, we reconcile so that we will pay up to 20% of the entire program. We reconcile and we'll pay you back if there were any unpaid absences that don't exceed 20%. So there's some questions that have come up on attendance, and as we've moved into our regular absence payment process, there have been some questions. So the finance team has kind of worked through this and have some written instructions. So that whole absent due to disaster piece is only to be used for classroom closures and not children in the classroom that were closed. So if you have one child that's out because their parent has COVID and they're quarantining, but the rest of your class stays open, you would not use that absent due to disaster. It would just be a regular absence. And these instructions, again, we'll give them to you in writing so that you can keep them with your attendance documentation and reference them moving forward. But right now, these are kind of the rules that we're using moving forward. For children that are no longer attending, we would like you, in the past, we were paying for those regardless because we had some CARES money. So knowing that families may have stayed home, that's kind of over now. We're not paying for enrollment versus attendance. And if the child is not attending your center, we want you to terminate them in the system. However, there are some families that you may go in, they keep showing up on your attendance and you can't terminate them. What we have found is that the parents haven't signed their certificate on their side. So you'll have to reach out to us, and we've put in here that you can contact Marcia Campbell. She'll be the family services staff member that will take the lead on this and helping you update the child's record so they don't show up on your attendance anymore. Okay, we know there's a lot of cleanup to be done, but our hope is that the first step is you'll reach out to those families, find out if they're planning to come back. If they aren't, or you can't reach them, then you can terminate them. Then we'll also go through that process to try and reach out to that family. And for all we know, during the pandemic, they may have relocated. And so we can take them off of our enrollment, and that allows everybody to enroll another child. And certainly on school readiness side, it makes sure we're not allocating funds to a child who's not using it, and we can get to somebody else on our waiting list. Okay. Another key issue for those of you that are Orange County providers, we do have some contracts with Seminole families that elect to attend an Orange County provider due to where they work or live or family resides. They have to upload their sign in and out sheets to the attendance folder in our share file. Most of you are using EFS mod, but that cross-county issue, we can't get to Orange County's document library for Orange County providers. So that's just a side note for any Orange County providers that have joined us today. You still need to upload your sign in and out sheets when the children actually sign in and out. And for VPK, it's either the long form or the VPK short form and the sign in and out sheet. and the attendance folder and Seminole share file can be there. So we're still accepting them in our share file. If for some reason you have trouble getting them into mod, we don't want to slow you down, so we're maintaining both of those systems, whatever's most convenient for you to use right now, because there's still some glitches. Sometimes some folks have had trouble uploading the EFS mod. So just wanted you to be aware of those options available to you. Moving forward, the reason we're sending this out is because our finance team is having to process things pretty quickly, and they've been making corrections each month. Moving forward, if these, for example, if absent due to disaster is listed for one individual child, they're going to probably boot your attendance back to you, ask you to make those corrections before submitting it to them. We want to make sure that you're aware and are following the right practices in attendance so that it's completed efficiently and we get everybody paid in the right time frame. So this is kind of a learning process for everyone, and we're trying to give you some hints and tips to make sure that it's done accurately. Okay. EFS mod. EFS modernization is our data management system. I just saw that pop up. That's the statewide data management system where we enter all of our attendance, your provider profiles. It's the system that we sign contracts in, and it's a statewide system created and managed by the Office of Early Learning. So that's where we're conducting our attendance. It's where children apply and are accepted for VPK certificates or apply for school readiness and are accepted with their approved documentation. All right. Do we have any questions? I know some of you are kind of reading the chat. Do we have any questions related to the attendance issues? Let's see, I'll try and look. I see Orange County rates will be different. Each county has something that's called a district differential based on the economics in those counties, just like our VPK rates are different county to county. So Orange County will have a little bit different rate based on the market rate and the district differential in their community. But the state, we're trying to get away from the extreme differences and variations in county to county rate through this targeted market rate. I saw something about lobbying. We'll talk about legislation in just a few minutes, so we'll come back to that question. Children that had not attended VPK and are terminated but had a certificate, can they attend over the summer? Yes, if they have not used any of their VPK hours, they can enroll in a summer program. Absolutely. And we encourage you to consider having a summer program. Remember that the teacher has to have a degree in order to be a teacher in the summer program. We don't currently have a waiver for that. So the credentials for the lead teacher in summer VPK has to be a little different. But if you have the availability and are able to identify a teacher to teach that class, we know that there are a number of kids who have not accessed VPK and certainly would like to make sure those options are available for families. Let's see. Do we upload parent note for reason of absence for VPK of more than 4 days? If it's an ongoing absence, for VPK, we don't really need a note. It's school readiness that requires the note. For VPK, if the child is absent, we can pay up to 20% of those absences, and that's it. So the rules are a little bit different between school readiness and VPK. If a family is stating they'll come back after COVID is over, if we don't really know if your center is open. I think that you can call Marcia and let them know that that's what the family has told you, and then we need to reach out to them, because if they're not working anymore or they're not in school, they're really no longer eligible, and they can re-apply when they're ready to come back in using the school readiness program. For VPK, they use the hours in the summer, or they're going to lose them if they have to go to kindergarten next year. So there is the ability for some children that their parents are basically holding them back from kindergarten. that some families could use their VPK certificate rather than this year, could use it when the child is 5. But by the time they are 6 years old, by law, they have to be in a first grade classroom. So only children whose birth date is, I think it's February 1st, as long as they have turned 5 before February 1st, they could use VPK the following year. And we can help with that. If parents have questions, they can always call our CCR&R line to get that information, and we'll make sure that you have that number to ask what their options are, because each child is different based on their date of birth. We really want as many kids as possible to access the program and be able to get ready for kindergarten. So individually, they can call us and we can work through that with the families. Oh, you've stumped me. What is the VPK current hourly rate? I do not know. I'm gonna have to look that one up for you. I do not know off the top of my head, but we'll see if we can find it before we're done with the meeting. If not, we'll certainly send it out in an email. Okay. I think I got most of them. And we'll come back to more questions in a minute. Just wanted everybody to know that some of you are already aware, but both our school readiness and our VPK monitoring that we're required to do by contract with the state, we're doing that virtually this year. So many of you may have participated in a training that's been conducted just to get you used to this. Our intent is to do what we're required to do by law, which is make sure you're meeting all the contractual requirements for these programs, but also not bring an extra body into your school due to the risk that it involves, bringing extra people into your classroom. I know most of you are not allowing parents into your schools right now, so that you're keeping your teachers and your children as safe as possible. And so we're conducting our monitorings virtually as well. So if you have not heard from staff members, we do a random selection, and we start out with those who've had major changes or are new to our programs based on risks that you haven't been through this before, and then we move into random selection of providers. So you may be contacted to conduct a virtual monitoring, which might require you to upload some things to us. They might ask you to get on your phone and show us something in the classroom. Again, the intent is to keep extra bodies out of your classrooms so that you can keep doing business as efficiently and safely as possible. So we just wanted to make sure that you were all aware of that. We're trying to do our best to keep you moving in the right direction, but still meet our obligations to the state. Oh, I just saw the VPK hourly rate right now is $4.58 an hour, $4.58 for school year. Thank you. Program class assessment. Right now, the class assessments are required. That's our program assessment, and it's the Classroom Assessment Scoring System is the tool name. We conduct those for all school readiness providers because that determines your eligibility for a contract moving forward. This is hot off the presses and it's not final yet, so I'm just giving everybody a heads up. I heard verbally that the state is looking at possibly allowing us to use 2018-19 or 19-20 or 2021 class assessments. We've had trouble. Last year in March, we stopped going out to schools. So we couldn't do all the assessments we needed to do. And now that we've moved, into 2021, we're continuing to have troubles when there's been major teacher turnover. You've had closures due to COVID in trying to do what we're required to do. So we're waiting on final notice. We are still conducting class assessments when they have to be done. So I want you just to be aware, please make sure that as you're having teacher turnover, I know this is a very tumultuous time for the industry as a whole. And I know there's been a lot of turnover, folks, based on health concerns, risk factors are leaving the industry or moving. And one of the things we have to have is that QPS system for school readiness providers only. We need you to keep updated who the teachers are in your classrooms so that if we have to do that class assessment, that it's as accurate as possible. So we'll let you know when you need to update that window, but please just try and keep it up to date as much as possible, because that will help us. Keep in mind that in order to receive, we're planning for July 1 of 2021. That's next year's contract. That's a 2021 contract. You have to have a 4.0 to get a school readiness contract. If you have a 3.5 to a 3.99, you'll be able to get a contract, but with a quality improvement plan. So you'll have to do some required trainings and tasks in order to increase that score. So when we talk about using an 1819 or a 1920 score, if your score was below 3.5, we have to do a class assessment for you.
Jennifer will be back in a minute, guys. She's just having to get her audio back and drop for a second.
Hello. Whoops.
We hear you.
Join the meeting.
I made it back. Sorry about that. Did I make it back?
Yes, you're good.
Thank you. I apologize. Technology is not my friend today. In the meantime, do we have any questions about the class scores? Okay, just wanted you to know that the option, the state is making the request. We will let you know formally if you need an assessment, but wanted you to be aware they're trying to be as flexible as possible due to COVID and do their best to get everybody eligible. But we still may be required to do some class assessments. All right, jump to the next. Many of you, thank you, have already applied to this, but we wanted to make sure that you were aware under some federal funding that the state got, we received funding for a mental health grant that we can offer to all of the coalitions or all of the providers. We have the Flip It, which it's transforming challenging behavior. That's a shorter training. It's 2.5 hours. And we have conscious discipline. We are prioritizing conscious discipline to school readiness providers first. But if we have enough opportunity, we will open that up to VPK only providers as well. It's an application process, so we want you all to apply, and then we're reaching out to you to let you know, as long as a center you have supported your staff in going through this training, it does align with the class assessment. So all of these skills that your teachers are learning will help them improve their class scores as well. So we're working really hard to align the opportunities that we provide to you and your teachers to align so that it benefits you as an owner or director, it benefits your bottom line if you're getting a higher score. And it also helps improve the outcomes for children and hopefully teacher stability. We know teachers are extremely stressed right now, and being able to manage the behaviors in your classroom helps you have a much smoother, more valuable professional experience for your teachers as well. So I don't know, Stephanie, if you have anything you want to add about that.
I do actually. Thank you, Jennifer. So one thing you'll notice with the application process is we are asking that each applicant has their employer sponsor them. And we've had some questions about the sponsorship form. We are not asking you to pay for anything. You're not covering the cost of the class or any materials. We got you on that. But we're getting from sponsorship forms are providers saying that they're not going to sponsor their applicant because they think they have to pay for something, and that's not what we're looking for. We are looking for the fact that you will support your employee as far as if they have questions, you're willing to talk things out with them, you're willing to allow them to practice this in their classrooms, as these are, classroom management techniques. You know, there have also been sponsors who have allowed for additional time to work on these programs, but it's all whatever's going to work for your center. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to elc_survey@seminolelearnylearning.org, and we'll be happy to explain more about that.
Thanks, Stephanie. That's really good information. One of the things that we've found over the years is that teachers in general have more successful implementation of trainings and resources that we share if the center has, as a whole, is supportive of that implementation. So that's a really key, that sponsorship thing. Thanks for clarifying that, Stephanie. We want to make sure these are federal dollars that are coming through the state to pay for this training. We want to make sure that it's expended in a way that it can be implemented and that it's valuable to both the teachers and the children in the classroom. So thank you. Please feel free to apply and share this with your teachers. We have a few teachers' emails because they've taken a training with us before or they've participated, but we do not have every practitioner in Seminole County's email address. So we count on you to share this with teachers, because truly, if only one teacher in your school will find value in this and you think it's important for them to continue their professional development, we are open to that. Of course, we feel that it's better if everybody's using Flip It or conscious discipline in the school and it becomes part of your culture. But we want to offer that to everyone. So please do share this with your teachers. Sometimes we run into teachers that say, I didn't even know that that was there, and we don't have a direct line to them, so we count on you to help get the word out. So we appreciate it if you can help us spread that word. Vicki, that's how we pronounce this.
Jennifer?
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry. I meant to say it before because I noticed on the slide on the conscious discipline, I did want to point out, we do have two separate conscious discipline trainings that we are offering. One is targeted more for the 3 to 5 year old and even into the school age population. And then we have another one that's targeted more for infant and toddlers. So if you have an infant or a toddler teacher, this is your opportunity to really get them some targeted training, especially on those challenging behaviors, because we all know how fun 2-year-olds can be. And you know, it's an opportunity for them to really get targeted training for them, as opposed to having to take a pre-K training and then make it work in their classroom.
Thank you. That's a really good point, Stephanie. Okay. All right, we will move on to Vicki. This is Variations in Implementation of Quality Intervention Project. This is a small targeted project that has been offered to Seminole County providers. This is funded by someone else. And for Vicki, they are looking for, specifically, this group is looking for providers that have 30% or more school readiness. So they're looking for providers that are serving a significant population of low-income families. And they have to have 2 or more VPK classes. They looked at 3 and 4 year olds. That's what they're targeting as preschool ages. But in Florida, in the state of Florida, they're doing this in several places in the country. In Florida, because of our VPK program, most folks have only VPK. You don't have a 3 and 4 year old blended class like they might in some other states. So they are looking specifically to target probably 10 to 12 providers. So it's a very limited opportunity. And the benefit is that once you're eligible, you can apply to them. Let's flip to the next slide. They're offering a lot of training opportunities. Basically, if you apply and you're accepted, and we'll send this flyer out to you at another time, but we will, in our follow-up email, we'll send it out so you have the application information. Basically, they're going to give you a year's worth of curriculum material. They have 2 curriculums that they're working on, Creative Curriculum and Connect for Learning. I know a lot of you use Creative Curriculum, and they're really only asking you to implement this curriculum. You'll be randomly assigned one or the other in those classes for this time period that they're doing this study. And then they're going to offer you coaches. They're actually going to have instructional coaches come out in person and support your teachers. They're trying to study the types of quality interventions that are out there and which ones are most effective. So as a center, you'll get, I think it's a $2,000 stipend, and you'll either be in a creative curriculum group, a Connect for Learning group, or you'll be in the group that doesn't get any special intervention and you just keep working with the coalition as you have been, taking advantage of opportunities that we have available. What's really neat about this is that the coalition, we don't have enough resources to send coaches out to all of these classrooms. We would love to be able to do that, to mentor one-on-one, but the cost is significant. And so if you're able and are interested in getting some coaching, I would highly recommend that you consider applying to this program. They're only looking at a couple of different counties in the state of Florida. Right now it's St. Lucie, Orange, Osceola, and Seminole, and it's a small number. Again, they're only looking at 10 to 12 centers. But if you're interested, I'm happy to speak with you offline. You can call me or send me an email if you're interested. And as a follow-up, we're also going to send you a little video that they've sent us that explains the program in more detail so that you can see what's there. But we were really lucky that they were interested in actually reaching out to Seminole County, and we wanted to give you this unique opportunity. It's a lot of money to have an individual educational coach and come into every classroom. So the cost benefit for you might be well worth it. So wanted to let you know about that opportunity. And again, we'll send you follow-up about it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'll help in any way that I can. The next piece that we have is Healthy Family Services. Many of you may not know about Healthy Families, but many of you do know families that are struggling. And we, as a partner agency, Healthy Families in Seminole County is actually run by Children's Home Society. Some of you may know that organization. And the Healthy Families program, as you can see, it's a nationally accredited, community-based. It's a home visitation program. They are underutilized in Seminole County right now. They actually have space and services and resources for more families in Seminole County than they're serving. And when we heard about that at the coalition, when we were having just an information session, we told them about child care resource and referral, VPK, and school readiness. They told us about their supportive services. And what was surprising is that they are underutilized. So there are a limited number of zip codes that they serve, but as you can see, it's most Seminole County zip codes. The families that they're looking to support are either pregnant or have an infant under age of 3 months. You know your families, and if they are struggling and could benefit from a home visitation program. And families can self-refer. So we're going to send you a follow-up with a brochure about Healthy Families, but you may know some families that could really benefit from this. And something that's recently changed is in the past, you could not be involved with DCF and get home visitation services. That has changed. And you can actually proactively, if you have had a DCF case open or you're under investigation, families can voluntarily get support from Healthy Families now. And they go through a screening process and an assessment, but somebody actually comes into their home, and they do some things virtually now due to COVID, but they help them during the stressful time of being pregnant and having an infant in their household. And it's really great behavior information, family management information, and as you can see, the types of things that they learn are things that you know families may be stressing about and may be having trouble with. So all of you know more families in the community than any of us at the coalition are going to be able to reach, and we wanted you to know about this resource because it's really important. It's not to replace all of the wonderful things that you do while these families are at work or in school, helping them care for their children, but this is to support the parents as their child's first and most important teacher. So we wanted you to be aware of this resource and know that it's available and underutilized. Usually when we have social services in the community, there's a waiting list a mile long and families that need them can't get to it. In this particular case, it's available now and not being utilized. So if you have a family, again, feel free to reach out to me. We'll send follow-up information. I'm happy to talk to you individually. You can just share the brochure with the family. You could tell them that it's available, or you can give them the phone number. There's a lot of ways that we can get them connected, but if they find this valuable. It could really help stabilize a family that might be struggling. Okay, so if they're expecting a baby or has a newborn less than 3 months old, has an open investigation, that's okay. They're receiving case management services from some other organization and have decided they want help with the infant specifically. And even if they've had prior involvement in DCF and the case was closed, they can still ask for help through Healthy Families. So I really thought that you all may have the ability to identify families that could find value in this kind of a support system. Let me just check and see if we have any questions about that. Anybody have
nothing in the
questions? Anything? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Legislation. Okay, so I want to get back to the question that was asked earlier about lobbying, and we'll talk about that in a second. Right now, I wanted you to be aware there was some pretty significant early learning legislation that was filed last year by Representative Erin Grahl that did not pass. She has revised her bill, has a few changes to it, but they're pretty significant legislation impacting early learning. One of the things that it does, her new bill is House Bill 419, and there is a similar, not exact, but a similar Senate bill, that's Senate Bill 1282. That one was filed by Senator Harrell. And for those of you that don't know, the Senate has to pass a bill, the House has to pass a bill, and then they have to come together and agree on one bill that will be sent to the governor if it passes everything to be put into law. I'm telling you this because many of you are interested in what's happening in the early learning world, what's being required. One of the key issues in House Bill 419 is it moves the Office of Early Learning directly under the State Board of Ed. It would take away some of the Office of Early Learning's powers to create rule, and it would allow the State Board of Ed to do that instead of the Office of Early Learning. There are some changes in looking at class assessments. There's a number of changes there. For those of you that don't read legislation or pending legislation, it's in committee weeks right now, so legislators are making changes based on feedback and input. Now is your opportunity to take a look at those bills and see if you like them, if you don't, what your concerns are. At the Early Learning Coalition, I do meet with our Seminole legislators. When it's not COVID, I actually go to Tallahassee, but I meet with them locally or have some phone calls with them now to discuss the bills. I cannot lobby because we are paid for with the coalition with state dollars and federal dollars. We are not allowed by law to lobby. All we can tell them is the impact that any bill or legislation would have based on our opinions of what's going on in the community. I want you to be aware of this because, again, this impacts our rules that we then pass on to you. So it's important for you to know what's going on. There are a couple, these are the big bills right now I wanted you to be aware of. There's two other bills that are out, a House and a Senate bill, that change the Gold Seal Quality Care Program from DCF to move it under the Department of Education. So that Gold Seal program would no longer be a DCF program. It would move it under Department of Education, where Office of Early Learning is, and the Early Learning Coalitions. So there are two bills that talk about that. Those bills could be rolled into one with 419, or they could stay separate, or they may or may not get passed through committee. There's a couple of bills out there about child restraint requirements for you to be aware of. There's some bills about screening summer camp personnel. Those of you that are licensed, you have background screenings, but there's some other programs out there that have summer camps that don't do level 2 background screenings. They're not required to on summer camp personnel. So that's something that's being proposed as a requirement. Those are the main ones. There's a bill talking about completing assessments in a child's native language in public schools that would probably include VPK potentially. So that's one for us to keep an eye on. I know for those of you that serve children who speak a language other than English in the home, that's always a challenge when you're doing a VPK assessment. And you're rating the child not only on their content knowledge, but on their language knowledge as well. And if they're new to the English language, that can be a challenge. So that's an interesting bill for you to keep an eye on. Any of you that are interested more about these bills, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, I can't lobby, but I can tell educators that we don't pay you enough, in my opinion. I can tell legislators that to offer the quality that you offer, we need to improve the reimbursement that we offer for these. But it helps for you to talk to them directly as well. And when there are specific bills that you have an opinion on, it's great for you to send an email to our local legislators or give them a phone call, go and visit to advocate as well on behalf of your business and the industry and the children that you serve. So I just wanted you to be aware that we're in committee weeks right now, and these bills are being heard in different committees. And if you Google them, you can Google Florida Senate or Florida House and put those numbers in. You can read the actual bill word for word and what it's asking for you to do. And I'm always available to answer questions if you don't know what they mean. Some of it's in kind of legalese language, and some of it we don't really know until it's implemented, how they're interpreting things. But I'm happy to guide and support you as you explore this information that's going on, because we're all kind of on the same team and trying to do the best thing for children and families in our community. And I wanted you to be aware about legislation as it moves forward. Any questions about that? All right, keep moving on. Children's Week. Each year, as part of legislative session, in the Capitol, up in Tallahassee, they recognize Children's Week. And in most years, we actually travel up there. They're asking for, they don't want as many people to come up to Tallahassee this year because of COVID. They're trying to limit folks. But what they do, and you can see in the pictures on the flyer, they actually, childcare centers create arts and crafts activities with children, and they create hands that they string up and they're hung in the Capitol Rotunda. And it's a very impressive thing, because as legislators walk through from one meeting to the next, they see all the children's hands that represent the decisions that they're about to make. And it's a very impressive thing for them to do. And we love to have Seminole County providers recognized in the Rotunda. So there's some guidance there on how you can create artwork with your children. And we're actually going to mail them to Tallahassee this year. And our counterparts, my counterparts in the Big Bend region in Tallahassee, will actually hang them in the Rotunda on our behalf. So everybody stays safe, but we still get Seminole County representation of providers and children in the Capitol. Do you want to add anything, Cheyenne?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that, again, just make sure that this year is a little different. So make sure that you have your hands stringed together already when you send them in. But we will have a follow-up email after the meeting specifically for Children's Week with all the details and instructions for delivering the hands. So thank you.
It's a good opportunity for your children and your business to just be represented with all of the other folks that are serving children in the community. And it's a really good opportunity for the legislators to see the mass numbers of children that are being served by the funds that they allocate and the businesses that are working to serve those children. So we appreciate your participation. We'll move on. Let's see, what else do we have? Okay, this is the last one, and it's kind of generic, but I have spoken with many of you throughout this COVID pandemic, and we know many of you have shared that you are having trouble with staffing needs. We know that the Florida law that passed to increase minimum wage up to $15 an hour is weighing heavily on everyone's mind, because when our rates don't change, but employees need to make more money. That's a business challenge that you're facing. So one of the things that we're trying to do as a coalition is determine what we could do to help train individuals or ramp them up to be available to work in child care centers, to make sure there's a pool of interested parties available. I did find out just recently that there is a job posting board at DCF. I just got it a few minutes before this meeting started, so we will send that out to you because I know some of you struggle when you're looking for staff. So we'll send that out in the follow-up email. That DCF sent out an email saying, did you know that they actually have this job board? But at the same time, we're going to try and conduct a survey. So keep your eyes open. We're going to do some kind of a survey monkey, something easy for you to answer, but to try and assess how we can use the resources of the coalition to get trained, valuable, quality folks in a pool that might be interested in working in the industry. And so we'll be asking some of those questions. And if you have specific problems that you need our support with, please let us know. We're looking at what resources we have and trying to find out ways that we can be valuable to you all. Because ultimately we don't educate or care for any children in our office. Our only job is to help children and families find you and help you do the best job that you can do in getting kids ready for school and helping their parents stay working. So we wanted to just kind of share that with you. I know there's been a lot of stress. It's a very difficult time for early learning businesses as a whole, and we continue to try and move forward with things. I did want to just remind everybody, I know we skipped through the slide, but the payroll protection program has opened for the second round. So for those of you that have not applied for that, please consider it, look into it. It's additional funding to support your staff. And if you have any questions, I'm not a banker, I'm not an expert in that arena, but I know it's dollars that are available for you. And I highly recommend that you look into it and consider it. There's information that we've emailed out. We can send some follow-up as well. Anywhere that you bank probably knows about it, where your business banking occurs, they probably know about it as well and can support you. But we highly recommend that you consider that as a way, again, to stretch your dollars in a time where revenue is down, because we know not all the children eligible are attending centers right now. So just keep your eyes open for the survey that we'll be sending out. Again, our goal is just to use your information to develop resources that will be valuable to you. And in the meantime, if you have questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to us at any time. We're happy to do what we can to support you. Any other questions in the chat box?
Not currently, no.
Okay, I know I talk fast, folks. We'll send you follow-up emails that will have all of the flyers and information for follow-up, the recording of the meeting today so that you can listen or share it with a colleague if you'd like to listen again. And keep in mind that all of our email blasts, keep your eye out for those. Sometimes they go to junk mail folders, so keep your eyes out for those. And check in ShareFile, because Cheyenne does a great job of filing a copy of everything we've sent you in ShareFile so you can reference it at any time. We're trying to just make sure we can share as much information as possible and do what we can to support you. The recording link will be sent as well, yes. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day and feel free to reach out if we can be of help. Stay safe.